Your true North Star metric has always have to be customers because customers hold you to the highest standard there is. And I think Jeff Bezos said it well that customers hold you to the same three things forever: faster, better, cheaper. No matter what competitor, bigger or smaller, comes after you, if you are getting better on these three dimensions every day, then that's where your North Star metric.
Hello and welcome to the Startup Operator Podcast. I'm Roshan Cariappa. Today we're going to learn all about building a D2C brand, what it takes to compete against much larger incumbents and actually win, and why you don't need a ton of cash, if you are authentic and maniacal about your customers. Our guest today is Chaitanya Ramalingegowda, who is the co-founder of Wakefit, which is one of the foremost D2C brands in the country. They're growing really rapidly. They have some of the best mattresses and home accessories around. In fact, last year they did about 636 crores in revenue. I speak to Chaitanya in this conversation about his journey. He failed twice before starting Wakefit, what he's learned from the past and how he's applying those learnings in this journey, and a bunch of things around scaling culture, around marketing, and what makes them special. This was a fascinating conversation, so stay tuned. Hey Chaitanya, welcome to the Startup Operator Podcast. Thank you so much for making the time.
Likewise, nice to be here, Roshan. Thanks for having me.
Wakefoot is a super interesting startup, and I have plenty of things I want to understand about your journey as well. But before that, one of the questions that I ask second time or third time founders, as you are, is what are they doing tactically or strategically different on this journey, right? Considering this is your third startup, I think we could start there. How is Wakefit different? How is Chaitanya 3.0 different? If you could take us through, some of those learnings, what you learned to do, and more importantly, what you're not doing in respect to the previous ventures that you did, that would be really helpful.
Sure. I think I'm a big believer in the effect of compounding, Roshan. There are definitely some things you carry forward and definitely some things you unlearn. I'll answer both of them separately. In terms of things that I have carried forward, number one is that every skill that I have learned in my first startup that shut down, second startup that shut down, has been useful here when I've been building Wakefit along with Ankit. Secondly, every lesson that I have learned in each of those startups and working in funded startups in between before we started Wakefit, again, those lessons are carried forward. For example, 2015, 16, when both Ankit and I were in jobs, and that's where we ended up meeting. We had both come out of our respective failed startups. He had shut down his one startup, I had shut down my two startups, and that's where we ended up meeting in another funded startup. And that was the peak boom time where we were seeing companies raise hundreds of crores, blow it all up over 6 to 9 months in a bid to get to the next milestone where they could raise the next round. So that gave us deep amount of discomfort. We had here we were coming out of companies that were bootstrapped, angel funded, struggled for 3 years, shut it down, and here there were companies which are blowing up money in a bid to chase another milestone, which was not linked to customer traction. It was linked to what can get me to raise the next round. That really scared us. And so we made the exact opposite design choice here. And when I talked about skills and lessons earlier, I was referring to digital marketing, I was referring to community building, I was referring to the product expertise that Ankit has, the community and digital marketing I have. All of those things we ended up learning in our respective work profiles before, which we ended up carrying forward. Third thing that we've carried forward is people. Some of the people that worked in my first startup, then second startup, I got them jobs when I shut down those startups, and today some of them are part of our team here at Wakefit. So that trust that was established in 2011, 2012, 2013, and then heartbreakingly we had to shut down that company and we lost touch, but we stayed in having that relationship and having gone through those troubled times. And now in Wakefit, they're part of the team for the last 3, 4, 5 years. So people, again, relationships compound. Now coming to what we have not carried forward, I think my whole pre-entrepreneurship experience till 2011 was about management consulting, which means you are paid to have an opinion. And in entrepreneurship, it's exactly the opposite, where your opinions and hypotheses don't mean anything. And so it took me a few years of unlearning to go through that, to truly have the humility to say, customers know what they want. You just have to listen carefully. So I think that is a big unlearning and core DNA of Wakefit. The second core DNA of Wakefit is to always keep customers and our employees at the center of what we do. You treat our customers well only by treating our employees well. So we did not lay off employees during our COVID first wave, COVID second wave. We were one of the first companies in India to get a COVID insurance when the first lockdown came in 2020. We ensured that at our cost, we got everybody vaccinated when vaccination slots were just not available. So those kinds of things, everything again compounds, because if you treat them well, they will treat the customers well.
Right. Fantastic points. And especially the previous point that you mentioned, right, which is this whole analysis paralysis that kind of happens. Typically, I notice this when people are transitioning from a larger setup into a startup. Whereas, I mean, execution at startups is almost, antithetical to that. I mean, it's opposite of that, right? I mean, you do something, you iterate, you learn, and then you figure things out. So, you mentioned your background in consulting and operations, a little bit of product. When you looked at the mattress industry, right, what was it that appealed to you, and what made you say that, hey, you know what, I'm going to stake my time and future on this? What were some of those things that you saw, looking at it from first principles, that felt very obviously wrong?
Sure. To tie the loose ends of what the previous question and how you sort of paraphrased it, totally agree with you. If I have to encapsulate it in one sentence, it is progress over perfection. So you make mistakes, you do partial comfort, but you keep moving forward, because there's no such thing as perfection. You discover it along the way. Now, coming to your specific question, now the mattress industry dynamics itself was completely broken when we started looking at it. And both of us came with very diverse set of experiences, right? Ankit knew the foaming from the chemistry side intimately, given his experience in that industry. I came from a place where I was building digital communities on a shoestring or a zero budget. And so it became very organic that I would handle the demand side and get orders, and Ankit would handle the supply side and grow it. But to get here, the fundamental insight that we had was that we felt initially that the mattress companies were extremely profitable companies. And we thought that, Array, this is the cost of raw materials, this is the cost of labor, but the selling price is way higher than what adds up from this. So that means these companies must be superbly profitable. So the first thing I did was go dig into their annual reports. And the first surprise for me was that they weren't really profitable companies. They were mature unit economics, which means EBITDA of 9-10%, PAT of about 4-5%, which are the numbers that you see in any very mature sector. We didn't understand. A little bit of interviews and digging in the market gave us the insight that some of these cities have 2 to 4 levels of middlemen between the brand and the customer, and each of them was taking a cut of the margin, and that's why the customers were paying a highly inflated price point. The second big thing that we saw was decision fatigue and confusion. Same brand, you go to two stores. Store one will have 5-6 SKUs that are not present anywhere. You go to same brand ka another store in the same road, and you will find very different SKUs of the same brand, and each of them is priced differently, it feels differently. And then you do some more research as a consumer, you will see that there are 150 to 200 mattress types, and everybody is pushing what is going to give them a high commission, not what you like. If Roshan Cariappa has a fitness regimen and he's a fitness buff, what does he like and what does he suit? If another lady is 65 kilos, what product thickness dimensions work for her and why is it specific to her? Nobody's caring. Everybody's trying to push what gives them commission. So we said we'll solve both of these problems. Number one, we'll remove all the middlemen and pass on every single saving to customers. So that means we'll be much more affordable. Secondly, we will deeply care about the customer and reduce their confusion. We will have only 4 types of mattresses that will serve everybody's needs, and we will be so good at that through our R&D, through our laboratory testing and so forth, that customers will like one of these products. And when we answer questions, we don't give a shit about commissions. We really care about what works for this customer. What is their lifestyle? What is their weight? What is their fitness regimen? What is their current mattress? And then recommend what works for them. And then after that, also give them a 100-day trial policy. Say then you try it in the privacy of your home, you don't like it, we take it back and refund your money. So that became the DNA of the company, that came from the pain points that were existing in the market. After that, we have applied the same for accessories, furniture, and all of that as we went forward.
Right. And your background in consulting certainly helps, right? I mean, you must be used to abstracting from daily operations, looking at the market and seeing it in perspective. Related question on the same lens: what is your advice for people who are similarly looking at different domains through first principles, right? How far does first principles take you? What does it not prepare you for? And what should they do basically?
First of all, I would not care to give any advice, because even though all advice is well intentioned, I really don't know the person's business. So please take whatever I say with a pinch of salt, because every founder is the best judge of what their business stands for. But having said that, the thought process that you see in every startup is that initially a couple of founders or one founder start off a company based on very pressing problem that they notice in the ecosystem. Then they solve it through first principles thinking. Then they hire a bunch of generalists who are able to do everything and anything. These are basically stepneys. One
Yeah.
day operations is broken, one day customer support is broken, one day some product issue is there. And there are very big number of generalists who are youngsters who are very hungry to solve anything and everything, and they thrive on that variety of problem solving. They don't have any hang-ups in doing one day customer calling, one day research, one day actual delivery. They have no hang-ups. They just want to do everything and anything. And then you reach a scale where you need specialists, where if you're doing visual merchandising, you need somebody who's done visual merchandising for 10 years. If you're doing product selection and SKU design, you need somebody who's done furniture design for 20 years in their life. So every startup goes through this: founder hypothesis and initial first principles problem solving, then generalists to sort of scale and run that to a particular point, then specialists who come in at each point. My only suggestion is, please understand which part of the journey you are in. And then at the first principles thinking, there is no amount of sitting in your room and reading will give you the lessons that you need compared to actually speaking to customers. So go deep into your industry, be the best subject matter expert there is in the country in your industry, and that is possible by talking to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers. There's no shortcut for this, but once you do this, the insights you also have, nobody can beat you. So if you're in the first principles part of the journey that I just shared, speaking to customers is probably the best input that you will receive.
Right. On the same lines, right? Persisting with that. What was the process of going from idea to product to company? I'd love to understand how you, for example, validated the product market and then, jumped in with both feet, right? What was it like building early teams, talking to these prospective customers? So if you go back 6 or 7 years to Wakefit's founding, right? What was that first year like? I know, I mean, a lot of things would have happened in that time, but if you were to sum it up, right? I mean, let's say 3 to 6 to 9 months, what was that like? And what were those early signals that kept you going actually?
Having shut down three startups between us, we honestly did not have any grand ambitions. Our ambitions were very small. To start with, we said we want to be able to build a business that sustains on its own. No external funding, nothing. Second step for us was to take one person's salary. Third step was two people's salary. Literally, we thought, okay, if we have done this after having shut down three startups, we are in some way successful. That was the simple goals that we took. And to do that, we kept our costs very, very low, and we started selling only on Amazon. We did not have Flipkart, we did not have our own website for the first 3 or 4 months. And when we got listed there, I still remember the very first customer that bought was an NRI. We were amazed. This mattress is costing some, back then it was costing some 18, 20,000 rupees. It's an unknown brand, zero reviews, some untested founders. If he searched on Google, he would not find anything about us. Why did he buy? Why did he place this faith in us? It was a big responsibility on us, but why did he buy? So we called the customer. He said, "Hey, I've just come back from the US, and this on buying mattresses online has started there in the last 9, 10 months. So I've tried it there, and I thought I should try it here also when I saw this listing. I just went on Amazon and I found you." So that really opened our eyes, saying that there is a set of early adopters who are okay to try us. Maybe it will become a small lifestyle business of 10, 20 crore over the next few years, but at least let's go ahead and run it. That was a thought process there. And that steadily became a trickle of one order every 2 days to one order every day to about 7, 8 orders a day by 6 months. So that gave us comfort that, okay, we can quit our jobs and restart all over again, because we had literally emptied out our bank accounts again to start Wakefit. Because we had taken up a job because we had no money, and now we were quitting the job, emptying out our accounts, again starting Wakefit. So it didn't make sense to anybody around us, but the confidence that came was because of this. Every customer we would speak, we would understand why they bought us. So somebody would say that I read this FAQ, and this gave me confidence that it suits my current bed frame. Okay, we double down on FAQ. Somebody said I purchased this product because there were some 10 reviews and there were no other listings available because we were one of the first movers. But when I got the product in a cardboard box, it freaked me out because I have paid 20,000 rupees and it came in a bloody cardboard box. So next day we went ahead and changed the packaging. Then somebody told us that Array, your product is nice, it's nice, I've been using it for 3 months, but my baby peed on it in the first 2 months. So now your product might last me 10 years, but I'm living with that stain for the next 10 years. So we immediately created a product called Mattress Protector. And we came up with two layers of covering where one of them could be washed in the washing machine so that you don't have to live with the stain for 10 years. This steady trickle became 8 to 10 orders a day to 20 orders a day. And it kept giving us comfort that, okay, we are heading in the right direction and we need to keep improving. That was a trigger point for us.
That's amazing. And you're right. I mean, 2016, I don't think people were used to buying mattresses or anything online. Even in the US, I think, if you look at D2C brands like Casper or so on, I think they've started probably around 2014, 2015 era, right? So I'd love to understand, what goes into changing that buyer behavior. While I understand that you might have been when the shift was happening anyway, what are those two or three things that you did to convince people to buy differently?
So, although Wakefit was incorporated in 2016, we were running the same concept under a partnership type of a company in 2015 itself. So, you're absolutely right. There was no listing category in Amazon. Nobody in India was buying mattresses online. This whole thing was new, but we were very early to the game. But how did we earn the trust of the customers? There are two, three observations that I want to make. First one is that every single piece of marketing communication on PR, on humorous viral content, on our really viral campaign that went live, sleep internship, every single place we emphasized a single message that the way you have been buying mattresses for the last 5 6 decades, which is going to a store, lying on the mattress for 5 minutes and convincing yourself with a story that this felt better than that, is actual rubbish. So everything was focused on that, saying that that was a wrong way to buy. Please buy something and try it longer because your body reacts to it only after you sleep for many days. So it was focused on that. Second big thing that we did consistently to make a very simple public promise and stick to it no matter what. At that public promise in our case was a 100-day return policy. So there were no TNC, there were no fine print hidden in the bottom of the page. Nothing. A simple public promise. You don't like it, we will take it back in the 100 days and refund your money. And when I say simple, kindly note it cannot have terms and conditions that if you've used up this much will deduct some complex mathematical formula, none of that, because you know that some people will game the system and misuse the product, but you're betting on the fact that a large number of people will be honest middle class people like us. So that's when you took that call, and that was the second big thing. The third big thing that we did to change customer behavior was to have a very rigorous post sales engagement with them. So you would call up customers and tell them that we're calling from Wakefit. Your body is going to undergo certain changes over the next 14 days. Some days you might wake up with a stiff back. Some days you might feel that you slept very well. No problem. Kindly use it for 14 days at least at a stretch. And if at all you don't like it anytime in the 100 days, kindly call us, we'll help you out. Nothing to worry. You have imagine a customer has parted with their hard earned money of 10, 15, 20,000, and 2 days they don't like it. Imagine the anxiety that they will be feeling. What if this company cheated me? What if they don't take it back? What if they cut some money before refunding? Who are they? How will I trust? So we did these three things consistently. Every piece of marketing communication focused on method of buying. Secondly, this simple public promise of 100-day trial policy. And thirdly, a rigorous post sales engagement to arrest any kind of anxiety that they might have. That was involved in the actual changing of behavior.
Right. And that would have been in such stark contrast to, what the incumbents were doing, right? And, we'll get to that question on, competition and incumbents. But, if I were to step back and look at scaling D2C itself, right? I mean, it's very, very hard. Unlike software where it's a bits and bytes thing, I mean, it's actually atoms and molecules. You're actually moving physical goods, right? And in your case, I mean, you're talking about mattresses and home accessories and so on, which again, take significant effort. What are some things that people should keep in mind while scaling a D2C business that could be very different from other businesses?
There are a few lessons that we have learned on the way. The first one is that your biggest ally is word of mouth. No amount of marketing budget or high spending on CAC is ever going to sustain in the long run. And no matter what your product quality, if it is not good, it's not going to sustain. So product has to be right, and then delight them so much that word of mouth is amazing. Second thing that we have learned is every successful D2C brand has a hero category or a hero SKU. That is always the thin wedge to enter that market and earn the customer trust. So I see a lot of D2C brands launching 4 sub brands, 25 SKUs from day one, spreading themselves too thin. Usually, it is a losing battle. You're a very small company. Imagine that. Even today, at 636 crore of revenue that we did last year, we are a small company. That means you have very limited resources financially as well as mentally. So, pick a hero product that really gives you that depth to go into the market and delight customers with a kick ass product and kick ass service. That's the second thing. And the third thing that I would like to re emphasize is post sales engagement. I think this is a completely underutilized lever in front of us. Most brands sell and they're done with the customer, but if you treat it transactionally, customers also will treat the brand transactionally. So if you engage with them, share their anxieties, help them with their value added services, customers will reward you. These are the three suggestions I would give based on our learnings.
Right. So you are at the 636 crore revenue mark, which is very, very significant for a D2C brand. Perhaps puts you in the top 5, 10% for sure, right? If you were to break down the journey in terms of, say, 0 to 10 to 100 to 500 or 600, what were some of the significant growth or acquisition levers at each phase? I understand you have a background in digital marketing, etc. But are you also evaluating, let's say, partnerships? When did you start engaging with influencers, so on and so forth?
So for our marketing, big levers that we used were content marketing. We knew that we could never go head to head with a large incumbent in either sleep or in furniture or home decor. So we took the route of saying that we will go deep in content marketing. So even in content marketing, we put a few rules for ourselves. Number one, that it has to be highly entertaining. Number two, each piece of content would have a nugget of knowledge about learning something new embedded in it. And thirdly, we should earn the privilege of the time. So if the customer or audience is giving us their 2 minutes of their valuable time to view a piece that we've done, we should really earn it. We should not take that trust and abuse it. We should not do that. So these three rules is what we used, and every single piece came out from there only. We did a message of unity campaign where we said we'll attract messages from across the country about unity, and we'll attach those messages and ship a mattress to our prime minister. That gave us hundreds of pieces of coverage. When we did sleep internship season 1, we attracted 1.7 lakh applications for being a sleep intern. When we did season 2, we got 5.6 lakh applications. Thirdly, we did the pandemic year, we did the 2020 to Bhad Mein Ja, the Kawali series. So it was very, like I said, it has to follow all of those three guidelines that we have set for ourselves. And that is why we never put the brand at front and center and said, buy now, buy now, buy now. We took the approach of saying, we are your companion in whatever anxieties or problems you're going through, and we're there with you. We are not here only for a sale. That was the approach that the brand took. That's how we grew step by step.
I really love that focus on brand, right? I mean, I think especially for a new startup as such, I mean, it sometimes feels like a luxury. You might want to spend your ad dollars or ad money on stuff where you see an immediate ROI as such. But yeah, I mean, that focus on brand, even at an early stage, has given outsized returns for you. And at Wakefit, I feel, personally, when I look at it, there are two ways you reinforce this brand. One is, through your maniacal customer focus. If I look at reviews on Amazon, you're at something like 4.8. On Flipkart, you're 4.5. Very, very high ratings. You have, 1 lakh plus ratings on these websites. And the second thing is doing these entertaining things, right? Getting people to talk about you and engineering these conversations. So what is your advice on the marketing front? Because as a marketer, when people talk to me, the first impression they have is that you need a lot of money for marketing, right? Or that only big brands can afford to do marketing. But you are actually proving that, hey, even an upstart, even when you're starting out from nothing, you can be smart about your marketing. You don't have to, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever, and still have phenomenal impact, right? So for a founder or for early marketing teams, what is that advice that you would give?
I think one thing that has remained true throughout our marketing thought process with everybody in the marketing and growth team is the authenticity. If you are fake, and doing something only for the sake of marketing or PR, customers see through it very, very, very quickly. When we designed the sleep internship campaign, we were really passionate and having a blast. We were having great fun designing that campaign because we knew that we were turning a paradigm on its head. We stand for sleep. Every successful person talks about how they sleep only for 3 hours, 4 hours. But if you really see people who are amazingly successful, they sleep 9, 10 hours. You talk to Roger Federer, you talk to LeBron James, you talk to any scientist, Einstein's diaries you read, Charles Darwin's diaries you read, they all slept for 9, 10 hours. And so we said, let us celebrate every single person who values sleep over their work calls, over the latest next Netflix show, over other partying. So let's celebrate those people and give them 1 lakh rupees for completing a 100-day internship. Give our mattresses for free, sleep trackers for free, not to take any data for ourselves, but for them to publish it how they see fit. We had such an amazing fun time designing it. And in season 2, we made it bigger. So it was very true to who we stood for. Second thing I'll give you an example is we did the Kumbhakaran campaign. Last year in about August, September, we created a profile for Kumbhakaran on LinkedIn and called him Chief Sleep Officer. And we started engage and we said we created a complete profile. Narad University, sleep degree, then where all Lanka mein what he did. We created job profiles, his experience in sleeping, all of that by taking all the facts from mythology. And we started responding from his handle to all kinds of people. That went crazy and we had fun doing it and it truly stood to the DNA of the company. Last month we released this campaign saying right to nap. We said we as a company will declare 2 to 2:30 p.m. as nap time. HR will actually send out a block on calendar for every single employee. 1500 employees, everybody would have this block saying that you want this half an hour to recenter yourself, meditate, take a nap, sleep, go for a chai break, do it. That's why I said it's authentic and it relates to what we stand for. And we have a blast doing it. It's not a forced fake thing. So when you think about marketing, it's not the money behind it. It's not how beautiful the film is. It's the strength of the idea. You won't believe it. The most viral campaigns that we have done haven't costed more than 5, 6 lakhs. The most viral campaigns. And any Series A funded or pre Series A funded startup can afford this budget. So it's the strength of your idea and how powerful that content is and is it resonating, and then budget is second.
Right. That's fantastic. And you're doing this in perspective with the market, right? But when you're going up against larger incumbents, it can be really scary. I happened to read this interview of HUL India CEO, right? Where he said that, HUL adds about 5,000 crores a year every year, right? And at that scale, growing 10-15%, that's, 500, 100 to 500 crore run rate is, 100, all this 100 crore, 500 crore stuff is just rounding off error. It's nothing
Yeah.
to us, right? I remember reading that and thinking, my God, I mean, imagine being a D2C guy, like, competing with this brand, right? So you may have incumbents in your space who are, similar in that nature, right? They're also probably thinking like that. How do you think about competition? Generally, when I talk to people about competition, they either are extremely ignorant of it or they're like very, very paranoid about it. What is your perspective on competition, and what is your advice to, Davids of the world who are competing against Goliaths, who are going up against similar large incumbents? So how can they succeed?
I think the way we look at competition is twofold. Firstly, the large incumbents who are respected companies who've been there around for decades. But every large company has a fundamental weakness, which is where is their current 99% of revenue coming from? If you identify that, they are very, very, very scared of touching anything in that 99%. And therein lies your opportunity. In our
Great point.
case, that 99% is nothing but the distributor network. So they know what we are doing, they know how we are disrupting them, but they're unable to move because their factories, their processes, their revenue channels are giving them 99% of their current revenue. Very few companies have the guts to say, my old way of doing business is dead. I need to reinvent myself. 99% of the companies say, I want to protect what I have. So that is the weakness. It's not technical capability, it's not skill, it's not ad dollars, nothing. What is giving them 99% of their revenue, they will not want to touch it. That's where their weakness lies. The second way of looking at competition is, even though we are growing and disrupting somebody else, nature of D2C is such that tomorrow somebody else can be more nimble than us. So we can never say that, oh, we are the Davids, we'll go disrupt the Goliaths. But we can never rest on our past laurels. We are only as good as the last month's revenue. So we are constantly on the lookout for new companies that have the potential to disrupt us because the disruption cycles are reducing. Earlier, an S&P company S&P 500 may they used to be there for about 2 3 decades. Today it has shrunk to 7 years average. That means a company is getting disrupted every 7 years and kicked out of the S&P 500. So that means we can never say that, oh, those big companies remained for 50 years, now we are disrupting them, so we have 50 years more. That's gone. Somebody will disrupt us in the next 2 years. So we are looking at competition in both ways, but I think that is just to be aware of what is happening. Your true north star metric has always have to be customers, because customers hold you to the highest standard there is. And I think Jeff Bezos said it well, that customers hold you to the same three things forever: faster, better, cheaper. No matter what competitor, bigger or smaller, comes after you, if you are getting better on these three dimensions every day, then that's where your north star metric is.
Yeah, that's, I think the broader context, what he said was basically that focus on those things that are unchanging. I mean, even 5, 10 years down the line, nobody will say that, hey, I hope this is less
Yeah,
faster or a little more expensive, right? Or a little less quality.
that's
And focus all of your energies on that. That's a fantastic quote, actually. Yeah. So today, Wakefit is looking beyond mattresses, right? You're adding other, home accessories, in covering other aspects of the home as such. How are you thinking of product? And when you look at, the plan for the next 18 months or so, what do you have coming up?
I think we have chosen home as our playground. So, which means anything and everything that falls under the roof of the home should be serviced by Wakefit. So, furniture journey started about 2 years ago. It's already contributing to more than 20% of monthly revenue. Over the next 18 months, we see that we will go deeper into more categories in the home space, and secondly more designs and options within each category. That is going to be a single minded focus to cover more and more of the home and service that need of the customer, and stay true to the DNA of the company, that we have to be extremely affordable to every single middle class customer anywhere in India. As long as we are true to that DNA and we are expanding within the home, that's where our journey will be.
Right. I'd like to shift the gaze to more advice for entrepreneurs, right? We're seeing a slowdown right now, and people, again, I mean, there's a lot of hue and cry on Twitter and elsewhere, right? And it's easy to sort of lose focus, right? And give in to the noise. What is your advice to entrepreneurs on how they can keep focusing on their business, go about building, kind of tune out the noise and continue to do what they're really good at, right? I think few examples I can think of is how you've been really cash conscious from the beginning. Is this stuff that, people can develop? What is your advice on that front?
I think one observation that I have is that there are two kinds of industries. One, there is a very strong network effects in play. For example, Uber or Ola, where it's a winner take all market. The more demand you generate, the more drivers you have on your platform, it's very hard for anybody else to come and break into that. But the problem is, every category's founder thinks of it as a winner take all market and spends money and trying to do a land grab of users, thinking I'll make money somewhere down the line. But that's very incorrect. A large part of the industries where startups are currently playing, edtech, fintech, these are not winner take all markets. You can be a very successful 2000 crore brand if
Yeah.
you just build it right. So my biggest problem is that every founder behaves as if it's a winner take all market and it's an asset light platform where network effect is the only way to win the market. So I feel that kindly look at your industry dynamic and be crazy about delighting your customers, because when tough times come, no investor will come and save you. Customers will save you. And this cash conscious, being frugal, all of that should be part of your DNA. It's not something that you activate as a button every time there's a tough period. It's your DNA. You're building something that has to stand the test of time. And if you're constantly blowing up money to get to next milestone, it's not a sustainable way to build a company. It's as simple as that.
Right.
Obviously, you need to do that in a network effects built business, but everywhere else you don't need to apply that principle.
Yeah. No, since you bring up edtech, right? So we cover, news and events every week. And I used to be baffled almost every week when, we would have these acquisition stories, right? Some of the larger folks acquired as many as, 8 or 10 or 12 startups, almost one a month. And I would think that, hey, I mean, all I need to start another edtech platform is an internet connection, a working internet connection, perhaps. And I can start teaching and I can aggregate and I can become a platform, right? And how is all of this consolidation actually going to help, and how is it going to matter, right? And yeah, that used to really baffle me, sometime last year and stuff. But hopefully, more saner times are sort of returning, and people actually do a proper rational check on, what business they're in and how they should execute actually.
Very true. I don't think this is a downturn or a tough time. I think it is, like you rightly worded it, it's a return to rationality.
Yeah. I mean, someone said it very well on Twitter the other day, that if this is a slowdown or a downturn, this is the best slowdown or downturn I've ever seen, right? Because sometimes it doesn't feel like one, but let's see how it kind of unravels. At every step of the journey, right, I think the founder has to kind of outgrow himself or herself and add new things, change their mindsets, build all these additional, tools and arsenal, right, that will help them in the next leg of their journey. What are some of those things that you're kind of deliberately building for yourself?
I think founders go through this. When a startup fails, they go through one type of learning. When it succeeds, they go through another set of learning only. Ankit and I, when we hit 100 crore annual revenue, we had never managed a 100 crore company in our life. So we had to learn how to do that. When we hit 300 crore, we had never managed a 300 crore company. We had to learn how to do that then. Today, we are heading towards a 1,000 crore revenue this year, hopefully. And we've never built or run a 1,000 crore company in the past. First time in our life. So different founders approach it differently. I had friends who use founder networks to meet up for a beer, catch up over informal meals, to use other founder friends as sounding boards. Some other founders use investor friends as a sounding board, because investors might have seen more such situations, more such environments, more such tough times and good times. Some other, I fall into the category of the third bucket, which is basically I read voraciously. I listen to podcasts, and Bangalore traffic gives you a lot of ample opportunity to do that. So I read voraciously. I'm always reading books. I'm always reading the latest articles. I'm always listening to podcasts. And that's where a lot of my learning comes from. Because at each stage, it's nothing but taking a step back. As the company matures at each stage, it's about taking a step back and trusting the team that you have hired to do the right thing, and just guiding them with the guardrails of the DNA of the company. For example, we can never do something that will harm the interest of the customer. We can never do anything that disrupts or worsens our SLAs that we have committed to customers. But if you take out all of those non-negotiables, you just trust the team to do right things, and you've hired them. You have taken the bet on them, and then there's no point micromanaging or getting involved in every single small decision, or getting them managing how their 8 hours are spent. You really should not. I think the biggest thing for me that I've learned is how to take a step back at every single stage of these last 7 years. And at every year and every milestone, as the team has gotten built, how do you take a step back? Guide them, but let them do their own mistakes, let them do their own initiatives, and then learn from that. I think that's the biggest thing that you will do as you go along. Because as a founder, you're very, very invested, and your natural temptation is to dive in and solve that problem. The problem is that you are never building scalable organization if you do that.
Right. No, at some level, I think culture overrides process, right? You have to have that embedded deep in your DNA. What are some ways you're reinforcing this? Because I think you mentioned 1,500 employees. You're at 600 crores something. You might, you're going towards 1,000 crores. How are you embedding this DNA? How are you embedding this core culture in the DNA as you scale?
I think one of the most powerful tools to embed the DNA is rituals. Even to this day, I am on the Wakefit escalations group. Even to this day, I respond to social media escalations. Even to this day, I tag every single escalation where Wakefit or I am tagged. We share it on this group. An RCA is done. Whichever is the right person from the cross-functional group responds on why this happened, how it is going to be fixed, and then we move on to the next case. Basically, through this ritual, I am emphasizing that this is not an order number, this is a person. We screwed up. This person ordered this because his pregnant wife was coming back into town today, and that's why he had ordered this mattress, and we screwed up. It's not an order number, it's a live person with a real problem. This is the customer where their in-laws were traveling from another city, and they have arthritis, and they needed this sofa to be at the right height, and we goofed up, we made a mistake. It's not an order ID, it's a person. Through this ritual, that's what we are emphasizing. And there are many such rituals we do, both Ankit and me, to show that we don't treat customer escalations as a percentage. We don't say that, oh, this month percentages is 1% escalations and we grew so much, so it's okay, it's 1%. But no, when you look at the absolute number on a huge number of orders, that's bloody 1,000 unhappy customers. And they're not order numbers, they're not an escalation number, they're people. And when we do this with every single action, and they see us in action. They know what we worry about. It becomes an automatic part of how they think. So I think I would say rituals is a very powerful tool that we use internally.
Fantastic. This has been a fascinating conversation, Chaitanya. Thank you again, for being on the podcast. Before we leave, what are some recent books that you really would recommend to our listeners, and also what podcasts are you listening?
So the podcast, I listened to this podcast called Capital Allocators, then another one called Value Investing for Legends. Both are around how to allocate capital in the right way, how to look at what channels are optimal, how do you use a framework to do that? Because we as founders, that's the biggest thing that we are doing daily, and how to whatever limited capital we have, where do you assign and why? So these two are something that I'm very fascinated with and I learn a lot from. In terms of books, we're currently reading the biography of Leonardo da Vinci. I'm also a big believer in this person called Cal Newport. He is a researcher who writes predominantly about deep work. So there is a book called Deep Work, and he's written more books around similar focus and deep work, because we as culture and as a generation have become almost attention deficit in our behavior. We have the attention span of a goldfish, and if you do that, you as a person are nothing but a manual router, forwarding emails from here to there, tagging and looping in person here to there. That's all you're doing through the day, and before you know it, the work day is over. So how do you carve out and dedicate time to really think and solve complex problems in your company? It's a fascinating thing. And please note, this is directly in contrast with the productivity fiends, productivity hacks that so many people write about, saying that,
Yeah.
oh, this is the email problem. You can learn more shortcuts. This is the number of distractions that you have. This is how you can turn off notifications. This is a very different thinking itself, where you're saying that, hey, I don't want to be in that framework. I want to create chunks of time where you're really working deep and bringing the full power of your brain to the problem. It's a fascinating thing, and I love that also.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I've been thinking of recently is that we're trying to optimize like we're machines, right? I mean, we're trying to squeeze every last juice out of, every minute and every hour. But if you look at it, I mean, if you think of the best ideas or even the best kind of things that you've executed, I mean, these happen in at the most unlikely situations, right? And it's often at the overlaps of things that you've been thinking of,
Correct.
which have nothing to do with each other, that you get all these different ideas. And I think we don't nearly optimize enough for genius. Actually, we optimize for being really really producing like a lot of mediocre work, I would say.
Correct. Correct. If you are fascinated about this project, this thought process, there's another book called Rework,
Yeah.
written by the founders of Basecamp, DHH and Jason Fried.
Yeah.
Again, brilliant book. Very similar in thought process to deep work and how you can build a company very, very efficiently and frugally.
Awesome. Hey Chaitanya, thank you again for being on the podcast. This was a treat. I really loved this conversation, and all the best for everything that you have coming up in the future.
Thanks, Roshan. I hope the audience found this engaging and helpful. All the best.
If you enjoyed this podcast, consider subscribing and leaving a review on your favorite platform. Also, get updates delivered straight to your WhatsApp inbox by clicking on the link in the description.